Again, thank you so much for joining us. We're continuing our marketing and sales series, and we're so excited you're here with us. So this is our live teardown, marketing and business growth hacks for technology partners. I'm Shannon Murphy, Chief Marketer at Zomentum, the revenue platform reinventing channel sales. Today, I'm joined by Paul Green, Head of Big Thinking at MSP Marketing Edge. So if you've joined us before, you know Paul and I, and you know we're huge marketing and business nerds. So I'm not really going to get into that, but I would urge you to check out Paul's MSP Marketing Edge program. Please check out Zomentum. We're bringing you these informative sessions every 2 weeks. We'll be going throughout the year. But enough about us. I would love to talk about our partner volunteers or volunteering for this marketing teardown, which is really just a really attractive name to get you guys to, to register. We will be no tearing down of these guys. It's more so meant to be consultative and helpful. But we are joined by Chris Gorman, CEO, and Daniel Schoen, Managing Director, both of Apex Computing Services. So guys, would you tell the community a little bit more about yourselves?
Sure, yeah. I'll go first. So I'm Chris Gorman, CEO at Apex Computing. Daniel and I have been in business for well over 18 years. And yeah, really looking forward to the teardown. Thank you for both inviting us on. Looking to get a good insight on how good or how bad our website actually is from the expert that is Paul Green.
Well, we're going to look at more than your website today. I think we'll look at your entire strategic overview. Well, we'll certainly have a look. I cannot let Craig Pearson's comment go unmentioned, which is just before we started, we were talking about whether you're a cat person or a dog person, and I'm 100% a cat person. And Craig has said, I didn't realize Paul was a cat guy. I might cancel his service. Which is outrageous. For that comment, Craig, we're firing you as a client. But yes, thank you. So Daniel and Chris, we have got a lot of work to do in the next 45 minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to take a strategic overview of how you get new clients. Now, you're a very successful MSP. You're based in the north of the UK, and we're going to drill in a second down into the size of your MSP and what you're doing right now for your strategic marketing. Because even though you guys are doing really well, there's always an opportunity to just tighten things up a little bit, make things a little bit better. You mentioned your website. You've got a great website, but again, there's opportunities there to just tighten it up a bit. And the benefit for everyone watching is that it's easier sometimes to watch someone else's marketing be improved and to form an opinion of how someone else's marketing would be improved than it is to look at your own. So my challenge to all the MSPs that are watching this is that as we're going through this, and I'm asking Chris and Daniel questions, and sort of you'll be able to see why I'm asking questions and what areas of their marketing I'm looking at. I want you to form your own opinion about what you would do differently with their marketing. Which I know sounds a very weird thing to do, but what you're doing is you're starting to train your own marketing brain, and you can then come back and look at your own website and your own lead generation and your own sales process and ask yourself, well, how would we improve that? If we applied that tweak, what would that do to that? How would it make it better? There's no such thing as the perfect one-size-fits-all marketing funnel that works for everyone. But what we can do is we can get strategically something that works for most MSPs. So Daniel, we'll start with you if that's okay. Give us a bit of an oversight of Apex Computing. So just the 30-second version of your story, where you came from, where you are now, tell us where you're based, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, started in 2003. We're a team of 27 people. We have 200 businesses on retainer, all different sizes, typically 10 to 50 employees. Me and Chris were best friends at school and started the business together and grew it to where it is today. Only the MSP model is what we're focused on, and I suppose that's really it as a background.
And have you ever done break fix, or has it always been recurring revenue from day one?
For a number of years, I'd say probably for last 10, 15 years, we did block hour arrangements. So in the last 18 months, 2 years, been really focused on switching that to fixed price per person per month. And just at Christmas, we managed to go from, I think beginning of last year, we were probably at about 30% fixed price, 70% block. And by Christmas time, we're at 95% fixed price MSP model. So we've done really well doing that in a year. and that was a big change to get customers to understand that and buy into that process of paying the fixed price rather than a retainer of block hours.
Yeah, I find that's one of the toughest transitions. So you've done a cracking job with that. And the two of you, in terms of growing the business, obviously you've got to a certain size now. You must have service desk managers and a whole management team in place so that you can focus on growing the business and they can focus on delivering the business.
Yeah, I think 100%.
Probably best to answer that, because in the last year you've built that team out, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, well, not only, it's funny you say that, but not only have we got a service desk manager, we actually hired a service desk coordinator. So our technical team on the service desk is probably about 12, 14 people, which is, way too many people for one person to manage. That's exclusive of projects, which is a separate department entirely. So we actually hired a service desk coordinator who actually started yesterday. And his role is to support our service desk manager.
Fab. So is he acting in like a dispatcher's role?
Essentially, yeah, dispatchers and taking on some of the more sort of administrative tasks and report generation for the service desk manager, which allows her to grow the department. We also have pods of engineers. So we've got 2 pods at the moment, but the plan is as we bring more engineers into the team, we can break those pods out into further pods. So each pod can be focused on a certain group of clients. So we can gain that familiarity with our clients as we grow, as we expand the number of customers and service desk engineers.
Yeah,
I think
sorry, after you.
I was going to say that's important to say, because me and Chris have grown a business from the ground up, and the customers we've had for 10, 15 plus years, they really trust the service and they're used to a very personal service from me and Chris. And as it's got larger, one of the aims of these pods is to keep that personal level of service, and we've taken on 2 more account managers in the last year. So trying to keep that level of service high has really been a challenge as we grow.
Yeah.
And just on the marketing, I mean, we have grown mainly off people coming into the website and not off networking, not off kind of advertising or going out trying to get customers. It's customers coming in off a website that have found us on Google. Basically, that's been our kind of area of growth over the last 15 years.
Okay. So we're going to come on to the marketing in a second. What's really interesting is that you, whether by intention or accidentally, and I suspect it's by intention, have put together all the building blocks for growth over the last couple of years. I've come across the pods model before, and I think it's a wonderful model. You're absolutely right, Daniel, that one of the downsides of reaching a certain scale of size of MSP is that you lose the personal contact with the clients, which of course was at one point your USP, your unique selling proposition. Yep. It was the fact that they had this personal relationship with you. You can't scale that. And I've seen the pods model before. I think it has its downsides, as any model does, but it has massive upsides as well. And part of that is that they are part of a smaller team within a bigger business in terms of the client relationship. So that's very smart. So before we come on to the marketing, whenever I do any kind of strategic review with any MSP, I like to work down a series of things. And we're going to do this very, very briefly with you. Now, normally I would start, well, the things are, if I tell you what they are and we'll work down them, they are vision, goal, strategy, tactics, and daily actions. And these are 5 sort of categories, 5 areas that you would look at with any MSP. Now, we're not going to have time on this call to look at all of these in detail. So we're actually going to spend most of our time looking at the strategy and the tactics. But normally, and for those of you watching, I would advise you when you're sitting down to plan your growth, and I suspect just from the conversations I've had with Daniel and Chris before this call, I suspect they have a very clear vision for where they want to take their business and what they want to do with that business, because they're very highly organized in the way they're tackling that. So having a vision is a really important thing. And that vision typically is more of a personal thing than it is a business thing. You know, if you have a vision that by the time you're 55, you want to be in an 8-bedroomed house with a gravel driveway, an Aston Martin on that driveway, and a holiday home in Portugal, then that's a vision for your life. And to do something like that, you need to generate loads of cash out of the business, but you also need to generate loads of personal time out of the business to be able to enjoy that villa in Portugal. No one wants to be the miserable person working 12 hours a day at a villa in Portugal while their rich neighbors are enjoying themselves. So it's really important to have a vision for where you want to take the business. And the vision is very much a personal thing. That vision then leads directly into a goal. And the business goal is the thing that really should drive all of your development. So Daniel or Chris, I'm not going to ask you to share the specific goal, because I find that most goals are quite private to business owners. But do you have a very clear, defined idea of where you want to take the business?
Is it clear at the moment? In honesty, no, it's not clear, because like you said, over the years, what we've done is we've amassed all of these customers through all of the different activities that we've been able to do. And it's probably only in the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months that we've actually really started to put this at the forefront, the vision, the mission, the values. We've actually engaged with an external agency, I won't mention the name, to help us sort of establish those. But one thing that is really important to both Daniel and I is that, you're right, Paul, we do have our own vision, but the way that we're approaching it as a company is we're actually involving the rest of the team in that. So at the moment, it involves Daniel, myself, and the rest of the senior leadership team. And what we're actually doing at the moment is building out what that vision is that suits all of us. And then the aim is to bring the rest of the staff into that and get their input as well before we release it. I think it's really important that everybody in the team sort of buys into that vision and feels like they've been a part in creating it. I think if we lead with a vision and try to push that on other people, there might be some people who are not sharing that vision. So we want to find something that works for all of us. But I think something that's worked really well over the last 18 years or so is really sort of good staff retention. And recognizing the contribution, because we can't scale our business without our, the staff that we've got and the staff that are going to come on board. So to come back around to your question, at the moment, we haven't got a set vision, certainly not one that we can share on this call, but it's something that we're actively working towards. But we are involving the rest of the team on that.
Great. And that, which is absolutely the right thing to do for all the right reasons. For everyone on this call, there are 2 books that you can read on this, which if you haven't read before, you need to either read the books or watch the TED Talks, because there are some TED Talks on these books, and they're just shorter versions of the books. Now, they're both books by a guy called Simon Sinek, which is Sinek. One of them is called Start With Why. And the other, why as in the question, WHY, and the other one is called Leaders Eat Last. And as I say, they're available as if you go and Google them as TED Talks, or books and audio books as well. And both of those books tackle very succinctly, but actually surprisingly deeply, why it's so important to engage with your staff as you're doing the kind of transformation that Daniel and Chris are doing here. So let's get into strategy then. Now, we're not today talking about retention strategy or upselling strategy. That's an account management thing, and it should always be the part of a growth strategy of any MSP, of how do we keep these people. We cannot assume great retention as we get bigger and bigger. We have to work hard at it, and we cannot assume as well that they will choose to spend more unless, again, we work at it. And that's to do with quarterly business reviews, using a profit matrix, technology roadmaps, all of those kind of fun tricks. What we're talking about today in terms of strategy is brand new client acquisition. So I guess, Daniel, this is more something for you to talk about, but give us an overview. And again, don't go too much into the details or give away any secret sauce, but give us an overview of what does the business do right now to generate new leads, to warm those leads up, and to turn those leads into prospects and ultimately clients.
I think we're in a really good position with our SEO, and we do get a lot of leads in through the website. We were talking just before this call. I think we probably had 30 leads in January, because we are organically listed highly for key areas. So like IT support Manchester, IT support Bolton. We've got really good landing pages that just generate a lot of inquiries, and it is a bit like a scraping the bottom of the ocean and bringing everything in and deciding which ones you want to keep, which is a bit different than a lot of the kind of other MSPs that we speak to at events are really going out and targeting certain types of customers. We haven't got to that yet. What we've realized is there's a point in our growth plan where just scraping the bottom of the ocean isn't going to work for us, because we're going to need to start focusing on specific types of clients and go and getting those clients and bringing them in. The bottom scraping is working to get us to this size of 200 businesses, but it won't allow the speed of growth that we're probably wanting for the next 5 years, and it won't allow us to kind of get those types of customers that we want every time. At the moment it's working for us, but we do need to change something, and that's partly why we're looking at our marketing strategy as a whole and what to do next.
Okay. So tell me what an ideal client looks like, and go into some detail about this. So what I mean by detail is, you might say, well, typically when asked this question, an MSP will say 50 users, 30 to 50 users or above, and that's not really a target criteria. Tell us about the business. So what kind of business sector or sectors could they be in? How many staff would they have? Geographically, where would they be based? Is it an owner-driven business, or is it a manager-driven business?
Typically, our clients are owner-driven, not like an IT manager. Just because typically now, even on a company with 100, 200 employees, doesn't need an IT manager, just because the technology is changing and the way that the devices are managed. What I would say is, Chris and I have been having conversations the last few weeks, and our mindset's completely changed. In that, we used to think that basically we're taking on the customer, it might be 5 users or 10 users as a minimum. And what we're really trying to do is look at the profitability of that customer, or what that prospect is. Because to take on a 10 user business is probably the same amount of management as a 30 user business. And when you put the account management and all the costs in there, the profit levels are so low. Is it really worth all the background noise of having those types of customers? And it's different for every MSP, but with all kind of costs that we're incurring, and the types of engineers we have, and the types of account managers and our skill sets, we're trying to kind of cut down that noise. And we will take on 10 user customers, but we have to price it in such a way that the profitability meets our minimum. And this is really new, this, Paul, so I've not got all the detail to put in there, but that's our focus really. And like, I had an inquiry today, less than 10 users, but they're very engaged. They want to take our product sets. They're interested in things like the BDCR products. They're interested in our application whitelisting or advanced security products. So they're going to take those sets, and then they're prepared to pay a certain price per user per month for a good level of service on their IT support. And that might be the industry they're in. Typically, if it's like a solicitor's firm, or if it's medical, they're ready to pay those kind of prices with less users. So I think we're starting to talk about verticals, but it's really customers that are wanting to invest and take our recommendations and spend that money, and it's profitable at the right size.
Sure.
It's a bit of waffle there. Sorry.
No. There's no waffle at all. I can hear that this is a very transitory thing for you. So actually, I think I can help you get some clarity on that. The phone. We finish our webinar in 40 minutes time. The phone rings straight after that, and it's a prospect. It's someone who's got to your website. They've read the website. They like what it is. They've picked up the phone and they've called you, and they've got put straight through to you. And the more that person talks, the more you start rubbing your thighs, and you're salivating, and you're jotting down notes. And you're like, oh, these people are perfect. Tell me what the person at the end of the phone, what are they saying?
They're engaging and wanting to invest in security. They're wanting to invest in backups. They're interested in business continuity. It's important to them they're safe against things like ransomware, and they're wanting to know how we can help them. They want to know how we can help them. And actually, typically, this is I think we've talked about this when I bumped into you previously, Paul, at events and so on. We're very lucky because we've got the customers coming to us and they're ringing us. Typically, they're angry or upset with the current provider. The problem with going out and trying to attract customers with mail shots or ringing them, and this is something we'd like advice on, but we've not got the skill set to do at the moment, is you're trying to convert them and get them at that point where they're ready to change provider. We're very lucky because the people that are ringing us have made a decision to change. 9 times out of 10, they've made a decision to change, and they're probably in pain. They've had a ransomware attack, the backups failed, they've got bad levels of service, they're unhappy. It makes my job really easy because I'm just asking them, what's wrong? Why are you calling today? How can we help? What are the focus points for your business? And if their focus points align with what we're offering, then we really are on let's move forward together. And we've probably got a 1 in 3 chance of converting. So we're very lucky as a business, as an MSP, that we're getting those kind of inquiries.
Yes.
But we know that can't carry on forever. We have to start focusing on the customers we want and bringing them in.
I think we want to try and attract sort of customers that sort of see us Apex as a partner and not just a cost. And I think that, historically, IT has been, just seen as a cost. So I think what we're really interested in is, how do we attract those customers that really see, us as an MSP, as a partner, I think, Shannon, you said it earlier on the call, we want them to see Apex as like part of their team. And when we get that relationship, those are the customers that we want. It doesn't matter if they're 20 users or 200 users. We want the customers that are going to engage with us and see us as that, that strategic partner, really, and not just the cost.
Yeah.
So actually this fits, sorry, Shannon.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a point too that to the issue that Daniel was laying out in terms of that ideal customer, right? When they're calling you and they're comparing you to another service provider who has failed them, then they are at that conversion point. That's why you can drive that conversation forward, right? And then when you talked about going out there, you even indicated to the window, right? Like those people
scary
out there in the ether, and like I'd like them to get some awareness about us, right? That's up here at the top of the funnel. That's where you're struggling. And I think, Chris, lining to that, to your point, is we have to take that opportunity to educate those people so that they understand the problem, right? It's like they need to hit that pre-awareness stage of even understanding there's an issue. How do I best go about resolving it? By working with a partner like Apex Computing, right? Because there's ways that people will go around a problem that might not even be hiring you. That applies to all businesses, right?
Yeah,
so you say get them into that mindset so they're ready to change because you've educated them to the point where they realize there's a problem with a current provider.
That's marketing right there.
Yeah,
people to change.
It is marketing right there, but I think there's only so much you can do in a certain amount of time, and I think everyone wants partners. Right down to all the vendors. I've only been in this world for 6 years, and when I first came in, and all the vendors were like, "Hey, we've got 2,000 partners," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" And what they actually mean is we've got 2,000 clients. But right down the whole language in this entire channel is partners. It's a partnership, partnership. And in the real world, people don't talk about that. The true partnership, I think, is built over time. In the same way that when you meet the person who goes on to become your wife or your husband, you might fancy that person a lot early on, but you have to go on a hell of a lot of dates before you decide to go steady with each other, and a hell of a load more time before you decide to move in with each other, and a hell of a load more time before you get married. And at that point you become truly partners. And I think you can't rush this partnership right from the beginning. My personal view is, and it is only a view, is that the partnership comes over time. The job of hooking in the new client is, you're right, people get to that point where they're so dissatisfied with their incumbent that they are willing to overcome the enormous inertia loyalty that is keeping them with their incumbent. And if we look at the psychology of the average business owner or business manager, there's a whole series of things that stop them from just switching MSP like that. The first of those things is, and it's one of the 4 big marketing problems that MSPs face. The first thing is that they don't know what they don't know. So it was really interesting, Daniel, you reeled off a series of things that you would like people to be interested in. You said you want them to talk about security and backups and I can't read my own writing there, and ransomware, and I think you said disaster recovery, and these aren't the things that the average business owner or manager talks about. So they know they want the outcomes. They know they want to sleep better at night. They want the business to be more productive. They don't want the technology to get in the way of what they're doing. But the vast majority of them, and I'm sure you have this experience when you're talking to them, the vast majority, they might say the word ransomware, but they don't really know what a ransomware attack is. And they certainly haven't seen one. So it hasn't, they don't know how terrifying it can be. They might say to you, we want to be in the cloud. But you go and ask them to try and explain what the cloud is in a single sentence that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And they can't. They're just like, oh, well, it's how the bank works, isn't it? They don't know how to explain these concepts. So we actually this is why we say they don't know what they don't know. And when someone doesn't know what they don't know, they cannot make a cognitive decision about they cannot decide whether or not their incumbent is any good, whether you guys are any good, or whether someone else that's come up on the Google search is any good, because they do not have the technical ability to make that decision. If they were, if you were selling to IT managers and you were doing co-managed IT, it's a whole different marketing game, because those people have the technical ability to tell whether or not you know what you're doing just by asking you the right questions, but the ordinary people don't. So what we have to to, this is why we have inertial loyalty. They are not making decisions with their brains. They're making decisions with their hearts. When the brain hasn't got the information to make the decision, it delegates it down to the heart. They are making emotional decisions. So to put it another way or not, Daniel, you do predominantly the majority of the selling in the business?
It used to be split, but we split the roles about 18 months ago. So Chris is focused internally and I'm just focused on new business and top 20 accounts for management.
Okay. So essentially people are picking Apex or not picking Apex based on whether or not they like you, Daniel.
Yeah. Whether they like and trust me after several meetings. Yep.
Exactly that. It's got nothing to do with your accreditations, your qualifications, your technology stack, your experience, none of that. All of that contributes to how you talk and the confidence with which you talk, but that's not primarily why they're picking you. They're picking you based on their trust in you. Because to ask someone to leave their incumbent and move over to someone new that they don't really know, it's a big deal. And many MSPs have sat in sales meetings and had 2 or 3 meetings where it seems like you're going to win the prospect, the price is right, the package is right, they seem right, you seem right. And then they go and sign another contract with their incumbent that they've been whinging about for the last 4 weeks. And, it kind of doesn't make sense. And actually it does make sense because it just means at an emotional level, they haven't engaged enough with you. So I think the challenge here is, there's a couple of different approaches that you could take to this. You have a massive strength that most MSPs don't have, which is that you are getting an enormous amount of organic and reasonably qualified traffic to your website. So most of the time when I do these marketing teardowns, no one's ever getting any traffic to their website and they're just not generating organic leads. So you're actually in a massively advantageous position compared to most MSPs. I think the trick for you now is maintaining that inbound traffic, because those are the people who are ready or nearly ready, willing, and able to take action. They're nearly there. They're not quite there yet. But you certainly have an opportunity there, and there is an opportunity to qualify them in a better way. But I think there's also an opportunity for you to put in place some outbound marketing. And just very quickly on this, because I do want to move on to looking at your website, because that's a big part of this. An outbound, for example, might be where you sit down, the two of you, and you determine what makes a great client. You mentioned engagement, and you mentioned that there's an emotional thing, but actually it's, we need businesses of a certain size. So there's got to be a minimum of 25, 30 users. We want them to be in one of these 5 or 10 sectors because, hey, we've done accountants, CPAs, we're good at those. We've done some lawyers, we're good at those. We know we don't want to touch dentists because they're a pain. We know we don't want to touch these or whatever is the case. So you can say, right, let's see how many lawyers there are within a 50-mile geographical radius of our office, which is our comfortable service zone, this kind of size of business. Let's buy their data, which you can go and completely legally buy their data. Let's buy their data, then let's target them. Let's turn them into our Dream 100. And the Dream 100 is a concept in an amazing book written by a guy called Chet Holmes. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And although it was not written about an MSP, it could have been written about an MSP because it's how you put in place an outbound sales and marketing campaign where you're actively going out and you're targeting the kind of people that you most want to do business with. And essentially you target them and you put in place a multi-touch point campaign. So that would involve some direct mail, that would involve some email, it would involve connecting to them on LinkedIn, it would involve messaging on LinkedIn, because messaging on LinkedIn has 100% guaranteed deliverability, although you still can't force them to read it. It would involve some email, it would 100% involve some phone as well. So you'd have all of these, and that's outbound phone calls. And the goal is not just to send out some stuff, ring them up and say, do you want to talk to us or not? The goal is actually to build a relationship with people over a period of time before they are upset with their incumbent. So as their unhappiness levels with their incumbent rise, your marketing, it almost, you want them to almost feel as though the universe wanted the two of you to be together, that your marketing, that your messages just happen to cut through to them at exactly the right moment. that they had reached a level of unhappiness with their incumbent. And actually, that wasn't anything to do with the universe at all. That's you doing a sustained campaign at 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 ideal clients for you in your ideal area, and just keeping doing something and communicating with them and educating them and entertaining them on a regular basis.
Little and often.
Little and often, yes. And actually, the key to this is being systematic and doing, sometimes MSPs do a big campaign and do 6 weeks of action and loads of stuff, and then they stop and they don't do anything for another 6 to 10 weeks. And that will never, ever beat doing little and often. If you and you've got a fairly sizable business with some resources now. You say you've got a marketing agency, which is great. We previously to this call, we talked about you taking on an extra marketing resource into the business. You've clearly got some cash and therefore the ability to buy some time to throw at this. The trick for you is saying, right, how can we put in place some KPIs, some key performance indicators of some activity levels that we do as a business every day to do 3 things. Number one, how can we build our audiences of people to listen to us? And that's your audience on email, that's your audience on LinkedIn, it's your audience that you're sending out printed newsletters to, it's your audience of people you're phoning, it's might be your audience on Facebook as well, depending on who your targets are. Number 2 is how can we build a relationship with that audience? And that is about sending out emails, it's about posting social media, it's about messaging, it's about phone calls, it's about multi-touch points. You never want to just focus on one channel. You want to touch the same people multiple times in lots of different ways. And then finally, it's about how do we commercialize this? How do we spot the point at which someone is nearly unhappy enough with their incumbent to do something about it? I'll give for you guys and for everyone on this call, let me give you the most powerful question you can ask anyone on a phone call. And the question is this, and then Shannon, I'm going to ask you just to talk for a couple of minutes, just while I load up the website for us to look at. So the question is, on a scale of 1, and this is why you're on the phone to a prospect, and especially this works really well if you've already had a few calls with them. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is awful and 10 is world-class, can't be beaten, what score would you give to your current IT support company? So on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is awful, 10 is amazing, what score would you give to your current IT support company? Now, if they answer 10, 9, maybe 8, there's nothing there for you now. There's move on, keep them in your loop. You send something to them every couple of months or so, but they are happy. In fact, that's the score that you'd want all of your clients to give to your MSP, because that's a truly bonded client score. Now, if they answer maybe 8, certainly 7 or 6, there is an opportunity coming up there, because that's actually, the score's starting to get low. It's starting to get down to sort of that halfway point. And that means that there's a level of dissatisfaction. Now, sometimes that dissatisfaction has happened because there's been a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes now and again. You've made mistakes with clients. I've made mistakes with clients. So you make the mistake, you either move on or you don't move on. And it happens, and it's unfortunate. So it might be a one-off mistake. What's more opportunistic for you is where the client perceives that levels of service have dropped down. You see, I think clients leave MSPs not because of big mistakes, not because of big things, but because of small things. And I'm sure you've seen this challenge as you've grown it from just being, just the two of you doing everything to having like a proper business with proper staff. Some of your earlier clients, even though they're probably getting twice the value that they were in the early days, they don't know that. And what they'll say to their account manager is things like, "Oh, it was much better in the old days when I could just call Daniel at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night because my printer wasn't working," which to all of us, we're blowing our brains out at that. But to the client, that was a higher service level 10 years ago than they're able to get today. We all know that's not scalable. So it's a challenge as a business grows. So any score below sort of five or below is an immediate and urgent opportunity for you. And certainly if they're down in the 4s, 3s, 2s, or even negatives, if they get a negative 10 score, that tells you there's a massive level of unhappiness. So that question alone can help you to grade how urgent is this opportunity. Shannon, do you want to just pick up on some of those points while I load up the website?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that question because it's a wonderful way to quantify that, that should be in all of your account records when you're doing these initial consults. Because from there, I think you'll start to assess, that gives you a data point to assess what are good leads or bad leads based upon that, right? Whereas otherwise, when you're consultatively selling, you ask certain questions, but the answers differ. You try to record those in notes, and it makes it hard to compare leads to other leads. So I think historically having that information is fantastic. Something else that I wanted to bring up when Paul was mentioning asking that question to your current clients, I think if you have not assessed current level of happiness or indicators like that with your current clients, to survey them, right? How likely they are to recommend you. I think that would be really important to do internally. And one of the reasons I want to mention both the unhappy leads and the happy clients is because from a language perspective, one, you ask them that question, you get the number. Two, ask them to elaborate on that. It's going to give you some great words that you can integrate into your site. Happy clients should be giving you the verbiage that you utilize, not just from case studies, on your website, right? And unhappy leads are going to give you problem statements that you can literally utilize and put onto your website so that somebody else comes there and they see somebody like them literally writing out the problem that they are facing and dealing. And it gets you away from like the marketees, the copywriting copy, and into actual language that your ideal clients, both current as well as future, are using, and you can utilize that language to attract more of the same.
Shannon, you've hit something there, because one thing we're really good at actually is getting feedback from our customers. So we use a program called Simple Sat, and every time a ticket gets closed, are you happy gets sent out with that, are you happy, yes or no, or a grading actually. We also do like quarterly surveys that ask some key questions that change every quarter to gauge satisfaction. But the bit that we're missing, which you touched on, is that we're gathering all of that positive feedback, but we're doing it to sort of say, all right, our customers are happy, and not like posting it all over the website or posting it all over social media. So I think you've given us a good idea there that we need to maybe shout about that a bit more.
Absolutely. You're using it from a service perspective, right? To make sure you have happy clients. And if you have to correct anything with processes and operations, you're doing that versus taking that information and using it in marketing.
One thing we do that just I'll quickly share that might be good for other people on the call is that we incentivize the engineers. But if you've done a good job and it's gone well on the telephone, if you say to the customer, if you leave us a Google review, a 5-star Google review, I'd really appreciate it. And we actually give the engineer £20 for every review you get. So in the space of a year, went from 20 Google reviews to 130, and the engineers were incentivized. Some of them get 2 or 3 reviews a week. It really bumps up the wage, but it really helps us with our SEO as well. Mm-hmm. So something as simple as that has been really good for us.
Yeah.
Take note, our listeners on the line. That's a good strategy.
And I'll get in there that on this Simple Sat thing, I'm not a reseller of it or any kind whatsoever. But you can, if they answer a certain score, you can actually direct them to leave a Google review on your own website. So it follows up with another link. Nice. So it automates it, which is always a good thing in a larger MSP.
Yeah, that's very clever, isn't it? So we're going to just move on to your website just for 5-10 minutes. And because websites are such an important part of marketing, it's your shop front, essentially. And we'll just look at the homepage. And I'm going to switch into being slightly more critical, because just for speed, I just want to tell you some things that let's call them opportunities for improvement, not stuff what's broken, but they're the same thing. So if we were to look at this and say, right, imagine we know a lot of organic traffic comes into your website. Websites aren't just about traffic. Most MSPs, we don't talk a lot about. Sorry, let me go back a step. With websites, it's about traffic and conversion. And for you, conversion is getting someone to book something with you or to declare themselves a lead. Now, with most MSPs, we never end up talking about conversion because they have such low levels of traffic, but you actually have high levels of traffic. So I'm going to recommend I am going to jump into tell mode just for speed. And I'm going to recommend just a series of small improvements you could make. What's really important though, is you have a website that already does really well. So rather than just with most MSPs, I'd just say, change this will be so much better. I'm going to recommend you guys do something called split testing. I'm sure most people on the call have heard of split testing. You take your original version, which is, let's call that your version A, and you create an exact copy of that page, which will call the version B. And on version B, in split testing, you change just one element. So for example, you've got a headline here of expert IT support in Manchester, which is not a particularly engaging or eye-catching headline. It doesn't grab you. So you might do a split test and you can use software called Google Optimize for this. In fact, Google Optimize is free, and you don't even have to build a page. It creates a copy of the page, and you can just change the element, and then it will do the split test. So it will send the first visitor to page A, the second visitor to B, the third visitor to A, the fourth to B, and so on. So you're splitting your traffic between those two pages, and you tell Google what the outcome is you'd want. And it might be that the outcome is you want someone to press that button there, that speak to us button. Which would be a good outcome to measure. So on your test page, you might have something where you change your headline and just out of interest, how many humans? I'm not going to use the word users, because users is a terrible word outside of our world. But how many human beings do you support, do you think? So not how many clients, but of your 200 clients, how many humans?
About 4,600.
Okay, so let's make that specific, because specificity sells. You try saying that when you've had a couple of beers. So 4,658 people in Manchester rely on us to keep their business running every day. Correct, which is a completely accurate figure, because that's the actual number of people that support you, and that's a very impressive figure. Now that works in the word Manchester. I can tell Manchester is important to you, because down here in your chat, you've got quite a slightly weird opening question. Hi there, how can we help? Did you know Apex Computing is based in Manchester? And of course, the answer to that is yeah. The fact that you're based in Manchester, yeah. So we're based in the UK's second or third biggest city, depending on whether you're talking to someone from Birmingham or Manchester. It almost has a bit of apathy, a bit of a, well, who cares about it? And unless you're telling me you've split tested that question, that actually gets the best response and gets them talking, which it may do. But certainly it would be worth split testing that headline. It would be worth split testing this sub headline. Is that Manchester in the background there, that picture?
Yeah, I mean it's Salford Quays. So our office is based in Salford Quays, which is part of Greater Manchester. So yeah, okay. It's a local. We're quite insistent on making sure that all of the pages have got local.
Something local on, yeah.
Pictures, yeah.
Yeah. But of course, being based in Manchester isn't a USP. It's not a unique selling proposition, because you probably have 200 competitors, all of whom can copy exactly that. The only USP that you've got, here we go, it's people. Even a business of your size, actually for you've got more social proof than anyone ever, which we're going to talk about using in a second. Yeah, exactly. So social proof being the testimonials, the reviews, and some case studies as well. So I would split test the headline. I would split test this. I would split test the button, the call to action, even the color. When you're getting good traffic coming to your website, even the color of the button can make a difference. Mm-hmm. I can see from that pink and the green that it's been matched to your brand colors. But sometimes matching call to action buttons to brand colors can actually reduce response. I would split test the picture. So the picture of Manchester versus a shot of you and your team, all of you wearing Apex branded T-shirts, just so it's obvious that, in fact, instantly that qualifies people who will, or that pre-qualifies people who might inquire to you, because someone who's, a two-man band with 3 laptops and an iPad to support, which you will only support at a minimum spend level, is likely to be put off if they see a team of 20 people in a shop, because they'll look at it and say, oh, no, we just want someone to just help us when things are broken. This is a proper IT company. So you may actually generate fewer leads, but the leads that you do generate are of a higher quality, for example, and that can be a win in some way. I would definitely
Just one item before you move on. Related to the headline, I love the specificity on the number of humans that they support, but I also think, just to drive this point home for everybody, it's about impact. How many people are you impacting and improving their lives, right? And you want your visitor to the site to identify with that. I want my life to be improved and simplified as well. And the other thing about the chat, you say, hi there, how can we help? The other reason of just like the meh of the second question is you also make it about you, right? So go through your site and look at moments where, yes, we want to learn about you so we can trust you, but find a way to shift it subtly so that you're talking about me, the persona, the person that you're trying to attract first, and then how you solve for me, right? If you start talking about yourself first, you're going to lose them. So I'll just say that before you move on, Paul.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's got to be completely focused on them. So as we go down, I mean, this is, by the way, this is a beautiful site. This is I'm not a designer. I'm a marketing strategist, but visually, I can tell you've spent a lot of time and effort and money on this, and I think it's beautiful. I think the opportunity for you is put more people in front of me and put more social proof in front of me. So a couple of times now, you've talked about the Google reviews you've got, you've talked about testimonials, you've talked about case studies. The reason that social proof is so important, and it was a phrase that was first coined by Dr. Robert Cialdini in 1984 in the classic book on the psychology of marketing, which is called Influence. And he was the first person to coin the phrase social proof. Social proof works because we as humans are still programmed in the same way with the same programming we had 100,000 years ago when things ate us. And so we learnt that there was safety in numbers. If you were in a cave and you woke up in the morning and everyone was running to the back of the cave, you didn't sit there picking your nose going, I wonder what's going on. You ran with those other 20 people because we were essentially herd animals back then. Well, we've got the same programming right now. So if we go back to our uneducated business owner who's thinking of switching from one IT support company to someone else, the safer that we can make it seem to them, the better. And the safest way to do this is to show them the people, show that you're real people, and show them social proof. So what I would love to see here, before you even get into this kind of text here, is I would love to see social proof here. I would love to see testimonials. I would love to see some your 5-star Google reviews. Oh, actually, so we've got a link here where it says superb testimonials, and we've got a link to 5-star reviews. I would go a step further, and your website designers are going to have an aneurysm when you tell them I've suggested this, but we don't care what website designers say, because website designers design sites that look beautiful on their portfolio so they can sell more sites. What we're more interested in is what gets us more qualified leads. I would take the best 5, 10, 15 pieces of social proof and either ideally screenshot it, or if that doesn't work in this design, then just copy it and put it on the page, because we're asking people to click through. And every time you ask someone to click through to do something, the vast majority of people don't do it. If you go and look at your Google Analytics, or you put in a tool like Hotjar or Lucky Orange, which will actually film videos of people using your website, so they're anonymous videos, but you can see what real people do, you will see that people simply do not click through to look at these kind of things. Whereas when they're on the page, well, they don't even actually read them when they're on the page, but the fact that you've got 5, 10, 15 reviews or testimonials there on the page, that has an influential aspect over what people are doing. Then we've got a call to action, which is great. Now that call to action is going to a calendar. So that's actually a different call to action to this one here. And one of the other opportunities for you on this site is to standardize your call to action. So for example, I'm guessing if I book that, that goes with to a calendar. That is the best call to action right now. Now, I say that only because I work with 600 plus MSPs. I advise all of them to use this call to action, book a Calendly. And yes, Shannon, I have clocked the time and I'm coming to a close. This is the best call to action, because it's for the hottest prospects. This is the best thing to do. There's a couple of things you can do to tidy this up, which I'll come back to in a second. You may have split tested Where have we gone? That's a long page. You may have split tested whether sending someone to the contact us page versus booking a live calendar is the right thing to do. If you haven't, that would be another split test to do. The reason that booking someone on a live calendar works really well is because someone can be on your site at 2 a.m, but they can take action which they know has been completed. People hate, some people, not everyone, but people hate filling in a contact form because it feels as though it just vanishes and off it's gone. People can send an email, but it's not that instant action that they want to take now. For those who are ready, willing, and able to do something about it now, even if it is 2 a.m, having a live calendar allows them to book something in that suits your diary and it suits their diary. Now, the changes I would make is I would get rid of meet with sales team. No one wants to talk to a salesperson. They want to talk to someone in technology. So I would say meeting with technology strategist. It doesn't matter if that actually is a salesperson. That's what you would put with that. I'd also put 15-minute meeting, 15, 20 minutes. People will not commit to 30, 45 minutes. Now, if they will book a 15-minute meeting with you, and if that meeting goes well, it will become a 45-minute meeting because you're talking about their favorite subject, which is themselves and their business. But people are taking a tentative first step. It's the reason that not that many people these days just pick up the phone and call you. The only reason they did that back in the 90s was because there was no other way of doing it. You found someone in the yellow pages, you called them up, that was all that you can do. These days, many people, not everyone, but many people will do anything to avoid having to pick up the phone or something like that. Whereas going in and booking a 15-minute appointment, there we go, 15, 30 minutes, an hour, perfect. So, being able to go in and book that is absolutely perfect. And I would hear, instead of asking the question, because we're sort of at the same question here that we were asking at the very top of the page, I would actually tell them what's going to happen. Show them a photo of the person they're going to speak to. Name that person, because I think we've already established that's you, Daniel. Tell us a little bit about Daniel. Tell us what's going to happen on the call. And you can say on the call, we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about your business, what frustrates you about your technology. I'm not going to ask you any difficult questions. I'm not going to use any jargon, and I'm not going to try and sell you anything at all. This is a chance for you and me to see whether you could be a good fit for us, we could be a good fit for you, and we can arrange to meet up properly from there. So everyone knows what the purpose of that Zoom call is. And I'm going to stop at that point. I could talk for hours, Shannon, about this, but I'm conscious of time.
I agree with Paul about showing a person. And I just want to make a minor point here on the SEO front, right? Like, this is almost when I see something like this, feeling like, okay, we took it too far, right? Like, IT support company in Manchester, I don't suspect that you are trying to optimize your actual calendar page. Do you get what I mean? So for that to filter through to an area where I'm trying to book an appointment with you, and it's probably more important for me to see a person, that's like a mismatch at that point, if that makes sense.
Yes. I just have to jump in because I've just spotted you've got this amazing social proof. It's just too far down the page. Yeah.
I was just about to say that. You thought I was looking at the time, but I was going down further to the page.
In fact, look at this. Oh my goodness. You've got everything here. It's just all in the wrong place. So all of that. So the basic rule with websites is to assume the further down the page, the fewer people see it. And you can prove this to yourself because you've got the traffic. We don't have to guess at it. Go and put in Hotjar. So it's hotjar.com. Lucky Orange is an alternative. They will slow your site down slightly. So these are not permanent tools. They're tools to give you the information you need. And they'll do you heat maps showing you where people's attention is, and they will show you videos. I always find the videos are the most interesting bits, and you will be horrified how few people are getting down past. I'm going to make a gut guess that they're not getting past the video, the vast majority of people. And yet your best content is down here. This is okay. Logos. It's this. Look at this. This is beautiful. You've got a case study. And what would be nice is if I could click that case study to go through to the full case study. And then we've got, where is it? Down here, another case study. Yeah. And then we've got all these testimonials. So you've actually got everything you need. You just it needs to be as high up as you can make it. Because at the stage where someone's just at that very early beginning, it's not about you. It's not about them. Excuse me. It's not about you. It's about the safety. And if you can immediately grab them and show them you're a serious player, and just the fact that you've got this well-organized, well-designed website, if you can get that social proof up there, that in itself, I believe, is going to make a bigger difference to your conversion rate.
Yeah. And something that I thought of what Paul said, that a lot of great things are here, but maybe they could be reordered. As you said that, Paul, and you were scrolling through, I saw that video and I thought, yeah, like the video could be super engaging and could show off the team. But like, why don't we move that into the header, right? There are header options with websites, right? Where you can put the video right there with the copy. So should we be putting that there maybe?
What we are finding, I mean, I think you both hit the nail on the head, I think, because what we're finding from like the stats that we get through Google is we are getting a lot of visitors to the site, and we are getting quite a lot of leads that need to be qualified on the back of that. But the number of visitors to the site is massively disproportionate to the people that are actually leaving information there. So it may be right in that they aren't getting past that first bit, but we're getting that hit on the website. So it's definitely some good feedback there that we can look into.
One other tool I must recommend to you, because I think you'll get huge value from it, is put a buyer's guide on your website. So there's a book I'm going to recommend, and I haven't got it here. No, it's called They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. It's you got to read. You got to read it, Chris. You got to read it.
I do need to read it. Yeah, this is a lockdown bookshelf. I've not read any of these.
So it's a great book. I'd actually get the Audible version and listen to it, and you only need to listen to the first 2/3. The final third is you can disregard. But the basic idea behind They Ask You Answer is you answer people's questions before they've got them, and actually your website goes a long way towards doing that. But you could go further. There's a tool that I put together for the members of my MSP Marketing Edge service, and that's a buyer's guide. So we sat down and wrote like a 40-50 page buyer's guide answering every possible question that an ordinary person would have about buying technology. And the idea is that our members, they change they put their name on the front, they change their details, they put it on the website, and it's a major tool towards educating people, because the only people that would read that are those people who are genuinely thinking of shifting from one MSP to another.
So that does work. We have one of those. Digital Agency made it, but I use it when I've had an inquiry. I send them like my proposal, and then I follow it up with, this will help you choose the right IT provider. But it probably needs to be on the website a bit more prominently, doesn't it?
Yes,
that's a good. Yep.
Never vary the content. That is correct. The cardinal rule right there. I'll tell you as a content marketer. You
want your buyer's guide.
Creating it, make sure people can find it.
Yeah, you want your buyer's guide to be in the hands of every serious buyer. I'll tell you something else that you could look at, Daniel, is getting printed copies of that. And so when you've seen someone, and you obviously send them out an electronic proposal, but you also then print off the proposal, you package it together with the buyer's guide, and you put those then into something called an impact box. So that's a nice looking box, not some dirty Amazon style cardboard box, but a nice box, a little bit of packaging in, make it eco-friendly, put in some chocolate, you could put in another case study, you kind of fill it with stuff. And the idea is that if you have 5 MSPs going to see a client, and one of them sends a box follow-up with a buyer's guide, a copy of the book they've written, some case studies, some chocolate, and it's all got the face of the person they've met on it, because they won't remember that you're Apex Computing, but they'll remember your face and think, oh, that guy, whatever his name was, he was a nice guy, wasn't he? I liked him. Did you like him? I liked him. And then look, he sent us this box of stuff. And I'm
gonna eat his face.
Exactly. You mentioned earlier. You mentioned earlier that you convert about a third of your leads into clients. That can be the thing that can tip you into 2/3, because all you're doing is you're forcing yourself. But it's very aggressive, but it's aggressive in a good way, because you want to beat everyone else, all of your competitors, to win that business. So you've got to be as proactive as you can at every single stage, right from lead generation right through to the point that they're making the decision.
Yeah, it's super memorable. So I just wanted to, before we hop off, again, thank you guys so much for being here and letting us go through your site. And I know it can be a tad overwhelming. We're asking you questions and being like, move this around, do that. But this was, it was super fun. I love going through websites and just kind of checking things out. So if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. I did want to summarize for everybody on the line real quick, some important points that I thought could not be overstressed, right? So defining that ideal audience, right? That ideal customer. And the reason that Paul spent a lot of time on that up front is because that then goes all into the strategy of, right? Like, how are we going to find them with outreach? How are we going to access them? What channels, right? And multi-channel engagement. I think something to underline there was even that example that Paul mentioned of when you have to be consistent and persistent in your marketing so that you are able to find them at the right time. Think about whenever you've been like frustrated with your vehicle, right? Those automotive companies are always marketing to you, but it's not until you've been frustrated that you were open and aware of that advertising. Or when you got sick of cooking your own meals, then suddenly you were open to like the meal services business, right? So we want to be across multiple channels to access them. And then Paul's last point of how are we going to commercialize them, right? How are we going to get them to switch from the incumbent? We need to go at this point beyond them just liking Wonderful Daniel and actually feeling like, okay, I'm getting marketed to consistently and I understand what this business stands for and what their value prop is. That is something that I just wanted to stress. I have more notes, but Paul, is there anything that you would want to add to that before we wrap up?
No, I think that's a great wrap up. And my summary would be you've got an incredible opportunity here. You've got a great business. You've got a really well designed website. You've got loads of traffic. So your opportunity is to spend the next 3 years, and it is a 3-year project, tweaking every little bit so that everything is as optimized as it can be. And as you grow your marketing resources from here, I think, and this is slightly different advice than I gave you before the call, I would look at actually where's some very high level resource that you can get that can put this kind of optimization into place to run these experiments for you. Yeah.
And tweak it for us.
It doesn't need to be a full-time person, but I would be more inclined to hire a really, really good optimization expert for 2 to 3 hours a week to work on your sites, on all the aspects, the behind the scenes stuff and the front of house stuff. And I think that alone could make that could almost double your new client acquisition just from what we're doing there.
Where do we find
the
these
outbound stuff?
Where do we find these wonderful people, Paul?
Talk to Shannon. Talk to Shannon. She'll sort you out with someone. She's good at that kind of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And that stands for anybody on the line. Shannon Murphy at Zomentum. Feel free to email me. I've been in the marketing community a long time. I know a lot of people, so I'm always happy to help. So, Chris and Daniel, I will circle back to you. Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
You're always fantastic, and I love the passion that you bring to this so much. So, I think with that, we'll wrap up. We didn't have a lot of Q&A. Oh, one question. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right for Ross. Daniel, when you were incentivizing your text, right? I just want to make sure that I wrote him back correctly, is that you were incentivizing your text to get reviews from clients, and for each review that they secured, they would get £20.
That's right. It's the best £20 we've ever spent. Honestly, it's just super to do that.
Okay. All right. Just confirming that. So there you go, Ross. Implement that strategy, get those Google reviews. The fact that Apex has 120 Google reviews for their maps listing is pretty enviable. So clearly that's a tactic that works. All right. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye.